Hello dear students. Yesterday we had started with the chapter of psychology and life, and we had done certain concepts under that particular chapter. Today, before I move on to the next portion, I would like all of us to sit and recapitulate the different concepts in a nutshell. First, we had started off with environmental psychology, which deals with the various issues of human-environment relationship. Then we had concentrated on the difference between natural and built-in environment, where we had talked about natural environment as being untouched and built-in environment is something created by mankind. A part of this built-in environment is called environmental design, and we had discussed the psychological features of environmental design. Then we had also discussed the various perspectives of human-environment relationship as given by Stockholz, the minimalist, the instrumental and spiritual perspective. Hope that you have done these concepts nicely. So now we can move on to the next, which is environmental influences on human behavior. When we focus on the attention or our attention on the effects of natural environment, we find a variety of environmental influences in the form of physical effects like adapting ourselves to the climatic changes by wearing suitable clothes, cotton clothes during summer and woolen clothes during winter, to the psychological effects like severe depression and trauma after a natural disaster. The effects pointed out by psychologists are environmental influences on our perception. It has been found by the researchers that Africans who live in circular huts, they display lesser Muller-Lyer illusion or error in Muller-Lyer illusion or geometric illusion as compared to people in the cities who live in angular walls. If you remember, we had done Muller-Lyer illusion in class 11th in chapter number 5. Influence on our emotion. When we look at nature, we are definitely appalled by the beauty of nature, and automatically we express our emotions or the kind of joy that is completely unmatchable. Natural disasters like floods, droughts and landslides can also affect people's emotions that they experience deep depression and sorrow. They also suffer from helplessness, anxiety, and such kind of disasters change their lives forever and might develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Ecological influences on our lifestyle and attitude. It has been found that the natural environment of a particular region determines that whether people in that region rely on agriculture or on other occupations. Those belonging to the agricultural society, they believe in the attitude of cooperation, where their group interests hold predominance over their individual interest, whereas in the case of industrialized society, they are found to be completely independent but less dependent on nature. So they have an attitude of competition and cultivate a feeling of personal control over whatever happens in their life. Now, after this, we are going to discuss what is the influence of human beings on the environment. Well, we have discussed about stressors in chapter 3, where we had discussed about various types of stressors that that can change the temperament of a person. Noise, pollution, crowding, and natural disasters are the examples of environmental stressors. Now we need to discuss each of these stressors one by one. What is noise? Any sound which is very unpleasant, which causes a lot of irritation, which we cannot bear, or it is beyond our endurance, it is considered to be as noise. It puts you in a very uncomfortable situation and in an unpleasant mood for a very longer period of time, as a result of which you are not able to concentrate in your work, and if there is a prolonged exposure to noise, it may also lead to hearing loss. The three characteristics of noise are intensity, predictability, and controllability. Now we need to understand how noise impacts human beings in various types of tasks. Suppose you are doing a very simple mental task like addition. Noise will never affect you. And similarly, if you are reading an interesting novel or a book, the presence of noise does not affect your performance. But if the noise is unpredictable, coming at intervals, it is very, very irritating and disturbing than the noise which is continuously present. Next, when the task becomes difficult, for example, you are solving a numerical or you are doing mathematics, in such a situation, your concentration may be impaired and intense, unpredictable and uncontrollable noise may reduce your task performance. That means because of lack of concentration, you may not be able to solve that tough mathematical problem. When tolerating or switching off the noise is within your control, the number of errors in the task will decrease. In the terms of emotional effects, noise causes annoyance, it causes sleep disturbances and harmful effect on our mental health. As you can see in the picture over here, annoyance, interference, depression, fatigue, mental stress, speech interference and decrease in efficiency. These are all the consequences of noise. The next slide that you're looking at here is pollution. Well, this is a topic you have learned right from childhood and you have also learned about the types of pollution. No, here we will not discuss about types of pollution. You are already aware about it. They are air, water and soil pollution. We need to concentrate on the psychological impact of pollution. That is the effect of pollution on human behavior. The first effect is because of toxic substances, pollution affects your nervous system. The dust particles in the air cause a lot of suffocation and difficulty in breathing. This you must have experienced when there is too much of pollution on road or when there has been severe burning burning of the crops and in that kind of situation you must have experienced suffocation and difficulty in breathing. Chemicals like lead can cause mental retardation. Noise, just like noise decreases your ability to concentrate on the task, same way pollution also decreases the ability to concentrate on the task and results in an unpleasant mood. If you are aware that in history there was a famous unfortunate incident, the Bhopal gas tragedy, the leakage of gas methyl isocyanate left behind many psychological effects. Those who had inhaled the poisonous gas showed disturbances in memory, alertness and attention. Now we come to the next topic or the next stressor, which is crowding. What kind of feeling do you undergo when you are in a crowded situation? Don't you feel uncomfortable when too many things or too many people are around us? There's a lot of physical restriction in your activities. There is a lack of privacy. Everybody seems to be interfering because it's a crowded environment. So you can definitely enumerate all these consequences yourself. There is a feeling of discomfort. There is a decrease in privacy. There is a negative view of the space around the person, and there is a feeling of loss of control over social interaction. Effects of crowding and density. Experience of crowding, my dear students, is related to density, which is the number of persons within the available space. Now, crowding leads to certain psychological impacts like abnormal behavior and aggression. It also leads to lowered performance on difficult tasks. Those tasks which involve your mental and cognitive processes like memorizing, analyzing, critical thinking, problem solving, etc. It really has an adverse effect on memory and emotional state. It has been found that children who grow in a crowded environment show poor academic performance. They show a weak tendency to continue working on a task, and if they are unsuccessful, then in that case they may completely run away from the situation. So there is a lot of conflict which happens with their family members. Even the nature of your social interaction depends or determines the degree to which an individual will react to crowding. Suppose if the crowd is related to a marriage party or to a gathering which is quite favorable, or a celebration kind of thing, then in that case noise, crowding, etc. do not cause any kind of stress. Rather, it is a positive emotional reaction. But sometimes, again, when it is beyond the tolerance level of a person, it may create a negative reaction as well. Individuals differ in the degree to which they show negative effects of crowding, which can be distinguished in terms of two concepts. One is crowding tolerance and competition tolerance. Crowding tolerance refers to the ability to mentally deal with a highly crowded or density, an environment having a very high density. Competition tolerance, on the other hand, is where the person is unable to put up a situation or compete with others, where he has to compete with others even for basic resources, including physical space. The cultural characteristics may also determine the extent to which a particular environment is judged to be subjectively more crowded or less crowded. Some people or in some cultures, there's a lot of emphasis on collectivity and presence of large number of people. And in other cultures, they emphasize on the importance of an individual over a group. So there, the people feel much more uncomfortable in a crowd as compared to the previous situation. Having finished with the effects of crowding and density, we need to come to the concept of personal space. Personal space is the comfortable physical space one generally likes to maintain around oneself. There is a concept which is called interpersonal physical distance. In social situations, human beings like to maintain a certain physical distance from the person with whom they are interacting. Well, students, one reason for the negative reactions to crowding is the decrease in personal space. Personal space has to be given a lot of importance, but it varies as per situations and between cultures. Edward Hall, who was an anthropologist, has mentioned 4 kinds of interpersonal physical distance. The first one is intimate distance. That distance which you maintain when you are talking privately to a person, like a close friend, is called intimate distance, which varies up to 18 inches. Personal distance is something between 18 inches to 4 feet when you are having a one-to-one interaction with a close friend or a relative. Or even with somebody who is not very close to you but in a work kind of situation. Social distance, 4 to 10 feet, when the interaction is formal but not close. And public distance, 10 feet to infinity, the distance that you maintain in a formal setting when there is a large number of people, like a person addressing an audience, that is referred to as public distance. The third kind of stressor or environmental stressor is a natural disaster. Natural disasters are stressful experiences, and they are the result of nature's fury like earthquakes, tsunami, floods, cyclones, and volcanic eruptions. Man-made disasters, however, include war, industrial accidents, such as leaking of poisonous elements in the industrial plants, as we just discussed about Bhopal gas tragedy, or epidemics, which are also human-made disasters. So what are the effects of natural disasters? Well, you have witnessed in the news, read in the newspaper, people get completely deprived of their families, even their resources, their homes. They are left poverty-stricken, without any resource. There is a sudden loss of belonging. They become shocked and stunned as to what has happened to them suddenly. And post-traumatic stress disorder is a severe psychological problem that results from the natural disaster. Now here we are going to discuss about the features of post-traumatic stress disorder. The first feature is immediate reaction. There is a sudden feeling of disorientation. What the disaster has done to us. Something terrible has happened. Physical reaction. Difficulty in sleeping, change in eating pattern, blood pressure increases, and getting startled that can be found among the victims. Cognitive reaction. Here, worrying, difficulty in concentration, and reduced span of attention and confusion. Emotional reaction includes grief, fear, irritability, and anger. Social reaction, such as withdrawal from others or getting into conflict with others, having frequent arguments with the loved ones, and a feeling of rejection. These reactions, they last for a very long period of time, but with proper counseling and psychiatric treatment, remedies are always available for post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, there are certain safeguards or certain measures which we can adopt. Here in this particular slide, you can see the impact of post-traumatic stress disorders, the same things which have been enumerated in the previous slide. How you can minimize the devastating consequences of a disaster. Warnings. If you listen to the radio, you might have heard advertisements which mention that people should not or should do what they should do when some kind of natural disaster is expected, like a cyclone or high tide. Safety measures. Safety measures is to be taken even if prediction is possible, the events come too suddenly for the people to be warned. Therefore, tips are given beforehand what to do when there is an earthquake. Similar kind of practice is given to you during your mock drills, that what should you do when there is a fire or when there is a natural disaster. In that case, what kind of measures you should adopt. Treatment of psychological disorders. In this case, we can provide material help like food, clothing, medical help. Then we can do counseling of the individuals, like encouraging the survivors to talk about their experiences so that they can come out with their emotions and their wounds can heal over a period of time. Also, you can help them to develop self-efficacy, that yes, I can come out of this particular phase. So psychiatric help is needed for those people who are showing extreme stress reactions. And finally, it is rehabilitation, like in the form of employment opportunities, so that they can go back to the normal routine. And follow-up of the victims is very much essential to ensure that they have recovered from their traumatic experience. With this, we come to the end of the effect of environment on human behavior. I hope you have understood up till this particular point. We'll continue with the next topics in the next day. Thank you.